Not yet. We'll be starting in a little bit. We're just waiting for everyone to join.
Okay.
Okay, so can everyone hear me clearly?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, we'll get started then. Um, I think we'll wait for 2 more minutes because we should have around 30 people. Yeah, so we'll just wait for around 2 minutes for everyone else to join, and then we'll get started. Okay. I think we'll just get started. Okay. I think the timings may have been different for people, and some people couldn't join, but okay. We have 24 people. So, I'll share the slides. Okay, so can everyone see my screen here? Okay.
Yeah.
Perfect. Okay, so hey everyone, welcome to week 3 of Fundamentals of Python Bootcamp. So as you know, in the past 2 weeks, we learned the first one was just an introductory session to Python and what things are. And week 2 and 3 were, which is week 3 now. Week 2 was learning the basics of Python, and this week is also going to be similar. We're going to learn more basics and fundamentals. If you have to leave early, that's okay. I will be cutting the meeting short this time in favor of the World Cup, so it won't be too long. Let's get started.
Yeah, I'm going to my friend's house to watch the World Cup, so I have to leave at like 11:30.
Okay, yeah, all good. By 11:30, 11:25, the meeting will be over. So, yeah.
Oh, okay.
Okay, so today we're going to be covering what loops are. So that's something I brought up last week, which was for loops and while loops, and we'll be practicing with those. And we will also be like diving deeper into lists, and we're going to be essentially learning how to access lists, the different parts of a list, and why they matter, why lists are so important, right? And then lastly, we will, on the technical side, we'll cover what functions are and how they work in Google Colab and why they're useful. So that's the technical side. But then besides that, we'll get into project ideas, because week 5 and 6 will be building your projects, but until then, you're going to be brainstorming and continuously like revising your idea for your project build. And then, since people have to leave early, there won't be a Bookit today, but there will be a wrap up. So let's get into that. So again, a review of our bootcamp timeline. We are at right here. We're at week 3, where we're continuing to learn basics of programming. Next week, week 4, will be kind of like a review of what we've done overall, and it's also going to be we're going to learn a little more advanced topics, like what dictionaries are, or specifics about input output functions, and maybe even classes, right? More advanced concepts, and a general review. And then weeks 5 and 6 will be, again, as I said, you're going to be building your project, and you're going to be showcasing them to us in the meeting as a final project showcase. And you will also compete for prizes, first, second, and third, right? And then at the end of the bootcamp, again, a final GitHub repository of all your projects will be created, and it'll be open source, so that'll be something cool that you guys can say you got out of this bootcamp. That's yeah, it's a good quick review. And again, so for donations, you can donate at this link. We work very hard to bring you these workshops and like events, and since they're all free, any amount of donation would be appreciated, right? So with that, let's get started with loops. Okay, so essentially there are 2 types of loops in Python, right? They're called for and while. And the general definition of a loop is a a part of a program that continuously repeats, right? So what's the first thing you think about when you hear loop, right? It's a circle, right? Because a circle never ends. It doesn't have any closings. It just continuously goes around in a circle, right? There's no breaking to it. So that's technically what a loop is here, right? It's a tool that continuously repeats a block of code, right? And there's two ways you can do this. There's two ways you can repeat a block of code, right? One is using a for loop, which is a tool that repeats a block of code a fixed amount of times. So you give it a number and it repeats it that many times, or it iterates over it, right? And essentially iteration means you repeat the same block of code, the same program with different values, right? And there are specific rules for loops, right? For loops, they must have a limit. So they must have, let's say, a number n. They must have n number of times to repeat, right? You must provide that. And they also must have a code block beneath it to run and repeat on different values, right? Now, we'll see the code implementation of it, but here's a general kind of picture, right? Now, in this picture, you can see a code block, right? You have a list here, right? Remember our data types. This is a list, right? And this is a variable. This is an integer variable. A threshold equals 400, right? So when you're saying for level in readings, that's saying for each number, right? For each number, for 350, for 420, for 405, in this readings list, if, again, we're combining with the conditional, which we'll get into later, if this level right here is greater than this integer variable right here, then you will print this. Or else, if it's not, then you will print level is safe, right? So that might be a little complex to understand right now, but it'll get easier once you get into the code, right? But that's general context for loops. Do you guys have any questions?
Yeah, is reading like a list?
Yeah, readings is a list here.
And like how for level in readings, does it say like it says if level it's like less than threshold or more than threshold? What does like readings do?
Okay, so what we're saying here is, so we have a list readings, right? I think I'll simplify this a little more for you. When it says for level in readings, it's saying, for example, so essentially what a for loop does is it repeats a block of code, right? So on different values. So it's saying for each value, so first, on the first iteration, so on the first kind of like run through of the code right here in the for loop, you will use the value 350, right? So you're running this code right here underneath the for loop with the value 350 first, right? So for 350 in readings, if 350 is greater than 400, which if you think about it, level is just, it can be thought of as an integer variable here, right? Because temporarily it's storing the value 350 because that's the first one that it needs to look for in the list, right? So it's going to see 350. It's going to say if 350 is greater than threshold, then it's going to say print warning level is high, right? Which, since 350 is not greater than threshold, which is 400, then it'll print level is safe, right? Now, you're done with 350, correct? So when you're done with 350, you'll go to the next value and you'll run the same code for this. And then you'll go to the next value. You'll run the same code for this. You go to the next value and so on. That's what a for loop does. It runs it on different like values in a list, right? And it goes on until you have no values in the list that have already been used up, that have already not been used up here. I'll explain this a little more with the Google Colab, but there's more questions. Ahana?
Why do you put an F before like the quotation?
Oh, don't worry about that. That's called a formatted string, which you won't need right now. That's going to be covered in like the advanced concepts.
Okay.
Or discrete. Yeah. Parth? Okay, no question. Okay. Iraj?
Wait, sorry, I was muted.
Yeah.
Wait, this code is gonna print 5 times, right?
Right, exactly. Because it's going to repeat 5 times because there's 5 values in the list.
Okay.
Yeah. So indirectly you're giving the for loop the number of times to run, which is the amount of elements in the list. Right? And what are elements? They're basically these values. We've covered this last class on data types of a list. It's these values right here.
Okay.
Yeah. And then Iraj, you have a question?
Can you show us an example in Colabs?
Yeah, I'll get to that. Okay. So yeah, I think we'll do that first before while loops. Okay. Present something else. Okay, right here. Okay. So we have this right here, right? We'll come back to while loops later. But yeah, so we have this right here, right? So we have a list here, right? This list has different names, right? Arush, Dil, right? Different names, right? So when you're saying for I in names, right? What it's essentially saying is that, okay, so for each element, that's like separated by a comma. So for Arush, right? I will print I, right? So it's like that. So let's say I'll run this, okay? And I'll show you guys. Okay, so as you can see, right? First it prints Arush, then it prints Mithil, then it prints this, then it prints the next, then it goes on to the next, right? So that's how it goes, right? It's simple if you think about it, right? All it's doing is it's going for each value in the list and printing what is at that value. Yeah, Advait, do you have a question?
Yeah, so what is like the four I in names if I equals Arush and stuff?
Oh, so okay. Yeah, so that's like an example when you're using lists with conditionals, which I will explain, but does anyone have any questions with how the basic structure of a for loop works?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like why does a string like print it with like one going like after another with like a different line?
Oh, a new line basically, is that what you're saying?
Yeah.
Okay. So it does that because remember, it's a for loop repeats with different values, right? That's the fundamental thing, right? So when I'm saying for I in names, so I'm taking a value, a placeholder value here, and I'm saying do something with that value, and then after there's nothing to run under this for loop, then I would just go back to the for loop and run it with a different value. So that kind of what it does is it erases the storage and it creates like a new line. It creates like it refreshes its space, right? And when you're refreshing space, you're not going to print it in the same line, right? Because you're going to print it in a new line because the program thinks that This is another variable. This is another thing, right? There are ways to get it on the same line. Like, for example, if you just said print names, right? You see how they're all in the same line? But essentially what you're doing with a for loop is that you're printing each line, each variable inside, which is I, is just a temporary variable, again, where you're printing each one on a new line because it's individual. This program, it treats like it's individual. It's not a complete list, but it's an individual variable kind of thing. Okay. So any questions? Okay. This is a little bit complex to understand, but as you practice more with it, it should get easier. Yeah. So we'll get into this after we understand how to access lists. But okay, let's go back. Okay, so that was a for loop, right? And a for loop relies on a fixed amount of a fixed number, right? The number of times it has to repeat with different values, right? But now we have a while loop, right? A while loop is another tool similar to the for loop, but instead the while loop is a tool that repeats a block of code until a condition is met. So could someone tell us what a condition is? You can just raise your hand. Yeah, Shay, what's a conditional?
It's like if this is true, then like this will happen.
Right, exactly. So it's a true or false question. That's a conditional, right? Now, that's what a while loop relies on, right? It relies on if something is true or something is false. So if you look at this flow chart right here, right? While loop start, right? So it starts right here and it tests the condition, right? So when it tests the condition, it checks, is this true or is this false, right? And if it's true, it's just going to execute the loop, right? And it's going to go back. It's going to run it again and again and then again, right? With different values, right? So it's going to run this program or it's going to run this like code that it needs to with below until the test condition that you're testing is false, right? And when it's false, the while loop ends. It stops repeating your code, right? And I'll explain this with Google Colab as well to make it clearer. But there's a specific set of rules for while loops as well, right? If you don't give your while loop a condition where it becomes false, like eventually the condition becomes false, then your while loop will never stop running, right? It will just continuously go on and on and on and on and on. And it will use up too much of your computer's memory, and it'll kind of break your computer, right? My voice is cracking. Is that for everyone?
No.
No.
No. Okay.
No.
Okay, I'm not sure why, but I am closer to the computer now, so this should make it better. Okay. Okay, so yeah, so as I was saying, if you must give your while loop a condition that will become false eventually. And what I mean by that is, suppose you have a condition, right? If this number, say an integer variable x is greater than 10, right? If x is greater than 10, then you will continuously run the while loop, right? But if x is not greater than 10, then you will stop the while loop, right? You need to give your program conditions like that. But if you give your program conditions like if X, if you just say if X, right? Well, X is always going to be true because X always has a value stored in it, right? Then it's just going to run forever and it's just going to break your computer, right? And again, similar to for loops, you must have a code block inside to run and repeat it, right? Now let's look into Google Colab to see code implementation of this, right? Okay. So suppose I have a variable x, right? And I'll say x equals 10. Now, in my while loop, the general format for a while loop is while and then condition your code here, right? This is the general format for a while loop, right? So every iteration, so every time the code runs again, it will check, right? The while loop will go, okay, so is this condition that I've been given here true or false? If it's true, then I run this code. If it's false, I exit out and I run the next block of code, right? So say I give it the condition x is less than 10 or less than or equal to 10, right? And I say x is 0, right? So, okay, so say I have this program right here, right? Okay, yeah. Yeah, so say I have this program here. We have a variable x, right? And we have a while loop here, right? So as you can see, I'm indenting below the while loop, which which Google Colab automatically does for you. But essentially, indenting here just means that you're telling the program that this code right here is a part of this while loop right here, that you want to implement it below this while loop as a part of this loop, right? You want to repeat that piece of code. That's what you're telling the Python interpreter, right? So when we have this right here, so while x is less than or equal to 10, right? Now what does that mean? While the number x, the integer variable x, is less than 10 or equal to 10, right? That's the condition that you're checking for. Then you will do this, right? You will print x times the stars right here, this star right here, and you will add 1 to x, right? So to make this simpler, I will do x equals x plus 1. So you're increasing the value of x, right? So when I run this, I will comment this for now. When I run this, as you can see, I get a triangle here, right? Now, why do I get a triangle, right? So I get a triangle here because, as you can see, x is equal to 1 on the first iteration, right? On the first iteration, on the first running of this while loop code, x is equal to 1, right? So when x is equal to 1, it will print 1 star, right? After it prints a star, then it will go to, then x becomes 2, right? Because x equals x plus 1. Essentially what you're doing is you're increasing the value of x by 1. And then when you go back, now x is equal to 2, right? Because you already increased 1 plus 1 equals 2, right? The current value of x was 1, right? And then you added 1 to it, so it would be 2. Then on the second iteration, x equals 2, so it will print 2 stars, right? And then after it prints the 2 stars, it will go here, then 2 plus 1, and it will become 3. Then it will print 3 stars. Until this condition, until x is not less than or equal to 10, this program will continuously run, right? Now, so you might have a question, right? What if I just ignore this line? So what do you think will happen? What do you guys think will happen if I just like delete this line right here? Yeah, Shay?
Your computer will crash
Right, but why?
because it'll like keep printing stars over and over.
Exactly. That's right. So
And there's like no limit.
yeah, that's right. You're not giving it a limit, right? You're not, X will always be 1, right? You're not changing its value. So what that does is if I run the code right here, look at that, infinitely. It just goes on printing. I know you can't see it here, but it just infinitely goes on printing asterisks, stars right here. So obviously when your program's running like this, you want to click this stop button to stop it, right? And you'll see it just keeps printing. It printed like a million of these, right? And you really don't want this because this is both memory and time wasting. It just wastes your memory, right? So this line of code is very important. X equals X plus 1. That keeps your code in control, right? And that's essentially what a while loop does. So does everyone understand? Okay, perfect. Can we not spam the reactions or the chat, please? People can't see the code. Okay. So then, yeah, some on you.
So you showed us that removing that x equals x plus 1 code will make infinite stars.
Yeah.
So is 10 like the limit? You put like x less than equal to 10, right?
Yeah.
So is that like the limit? So 10 is the limit?
Yeah. That's like saying 10 is the limit to this loop. So when x reaches 10, you will stop this code. You won't run it anymore, right? Because the condition has been false, right? It's not true anymore. Yeah. And then Adwit, you have a question?
Can you like paste the code that you just wrote into the chat?
Sure. This is for a while loop.
Thank you.
Okay. Yeah. And then Krishan, do you have a question?
Yeah, Arush, I have a question. So, you know how you made all the stars go from 1 to 10? What if you want to make it go from 10 to 1, like backwards? How do you do that? I'm just a little curious.
Okay, so essentially in order to do that, you would reverse this program, which I'll do it later because we're running short on time. We have to finish this in 20 minutes. But essentially, instead of starting from 1 here, you would start from 10, and then you would do something like this. Yeah. Yeah, so if you wanted like a reverse triangle like this, you would start from a bigger number because that tells the program to build, to like print more stars, right? And then you would give it a lower condition like this. And then you would decrement, which is a little complex, which we'll cover how to like manipulate while loops and for loops next class, which is more advanced. But essentially, if you want different shapes, it's just a matter of manipulating this condition and the variable that you want, like the number of stars that you want at each spot. But that's the basics, yeah. Now let's go back. So, okay. Now we'll get into accessing lists. Okay, so as we covered last week, lists are a very important data type, right? Because they're used everywhere from, as I said before, like grocery lists, wish lists, just in general, listing items in your house or listing numbers, right? They're very important and they're used basically everywhere in the coding world, right? And they have two main components, right? They have something called the index, which is the element number. Now, can someone tell me what an element is once again? An element in a list. Yeah, Shay?
An element is like what's inside the list.
Yeah, exactly. An element is exactly what's inside the list. So take this list, for example. This list is named row 1, right? In this list, Facebook is an element. 0.0 is an element. USD is an element. An element is essentially just the actual value stored inside a list, right? Now, when we have an index, the index just tells us where the element is stored in the list, right? So, for example, I have Facebook here, right? The index of Facebook is 0, right? Because it's the first number, right? Remember how last week, if you missed last week, basically we covered that in a list, the indexes start from 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, right? So the first element will be 0, second element will be 1, third element will be 2, and so on, right? So it's your element, your first element minus 1, that's your index, right? That's how you calculate it. And then again, value slash element, it's the actual value stored at the index, which we covered, right? And then elements in a list are accessed using their indices. So indices basically just mean index, right? It's the plural form of index. And we'll see this in Google Colab, right? I will share my screen for Google Colab. But yeah, general things are very important right here. The first element is assigned an index of 0, and then the second one is 1. So that's very important that you remember that, because your whole program can get messed up if you treat the elements with, you assign wrong, you like treat the elements with the wrong indices, basically. So right here. Okay. So we have a list here, right? Groceries is our list right here, right? So in this list, groceries, we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 5 elements, right? Now, for these 5 elements, you will have, each of them will be automatically, Python does this automatically. Each one has an index, right? Bananas, which are the first element you see in the list, have an index of 0, right? Apple juice, which has which is the second element in the list, has the index of 1, right? And then so on. Oranges has 2, frozen pizza has 3, spinach has 4, right? To access these, you use this specific syntax, right? So the general structure for this would be list name, square brackets, index, okay? And you can see this right here, right? Groceries square brackets, index, right? And if we just see what this prints, bananas. Why does it print bananas? Because at index 0, using your square brackets, you accessed bananas, right? That's the value of this phrase right here. Groceries, square brackets, 0 is bananas because the first element in the list is bananas. Yeah, Samanu?
So you put groceries 0 here, right? So if you put like groceries 1, then will it become apple juice?
Exactly. Yeah, you got it. So if I just put groceries 1, then I get apple juice. Why? Because at index 1, groceries, this list stores apple juice at that index, right? So yeah, exactly. Nidhi, question?
What's the difference between an array and a list?
So arrays are used in other programming languages, but they are usually referred to interchangeably. So they're both used to store a collection of items, right? But as you get into other programming languages, arrays have more functionalities than lists, both efficiency-wise, which will be covered in future boot camps because this one only focuses on Python. But think of it, if you simply put, lists are the arrays of Python, right? So an array in Python is lists. That's a way you could think about it.
Thank you.
Okay. Yeah. So that's accessing lists, right? And there are there's a specific format for lists, right? So you can do, say you wanted to print all the values from apple juice, all the names from apple juice to spinach, right? So then I would use something called slicing, right? And what slicing means is that, think of it like a slice, right? I'm taking this slice right here and I'm printing that. I'm printing all the values in that. So if I run this, if you can, yeah. So as you see here, you see that from the index 1, I'm printing all of the list, right? The difference between print groceries and print groceries from 1 to the end of list, which is 4. No, sorry. Yeah. The difference is that I'm not selecting bananas because I didn't say I wanted to go from 0 to 5. If I said 0 to 5, that would be the exact same as groceries. I said 1 to 5, right? So the second element to the last element, right? And notice how I said 5 here, but 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, right? There's no 4, there's no fifth index, right? So why I put 5 here is because when you're using slicing, Python doesn't include the last element. So if I just put 4, right? You see how spinach is cut off here? It's not printing spinach. So then I would need to add 1 to include spinach, right? That's essentially how you do slicing. Any questions? Yeah, Samanu?
I didn't get it well.
Okay, that's okay. I'll explain it again, but Parth, do you have a question before that?
So the last line where you said hashtag print groceries 02, like the double colon. What does the double colon do?
Okay, so this is a little bit more advanced, which we'll cover next week. But what this does is so you can think of slicing as this, right? So list name, it's in this format, right? Start, stop, step, right? This is the general like format for lists, for like printing multiple values in a list, right? So this tells you this first number before this, the first colon tells you that, okay, this is the index that you need to start at. This one tells you this is the index that you need to stop at. And then this one tells you to print every index that is like alternate, or this tells you like the indexes to skip basically. So step or skip both work here. So this is the general formula. So if I said, okay, so let's say we're printing this, right? So in this one, I gave it 0, 5, 2, and 2 semicolons, right? What this does is it tells Python start at 0, end at 5, and print every second element, right?
Oh,
Starting
okay.
from this. So it prints the grocery 0. It then, since 1 is not, you skip 1 because you told it to print every second element, right? Then it will skip this. It will skip 2, so it'll skip 1, 2, print this. It will skip this one again and print this, right?
Okay. Thanks.
Yeah. We'll cover slicing more in depth later on. But going back to Samanyu's question, okay. So I'll explain this once again, right? Slicing is the idea of printing multiple items at the same time from a list, right? So when I say this right here, right, what I'm essentially saying is the program needs to start at this index, right? Start printing each value at this index and stop printing once you get to this index, right? So if I said 0, 5, right? When I said 0, 5, that means, hey, start at groceries 0. So print groceries 0 all the way to groceries 1, and then so on until you get to groceries, the end of the list, right? Until you get to groceries 4, which is basically you're not including this element, so you would just say 5 minus 1, right? Does that make sense, Samanyu?
Yeah.
Okay. I will post this Google Colab so that everyone can see it. But it seems that people have to leave early today. So does anyone have to leave early? You can just type in the chat.
Yeah, I have a watch party.
Okay. So, okay then, I'm not gonna cover, since people have to leave, I'm not gonna cover more topics, but those are the two that we're covering mainly. So today we covered accessing lists and loops, right? Okay, Arush, do you have a question?
Yeah, you're gonna send the code today or later?
Yeah. I'll send the meeting review and the code. Yeah.
Wait, when? Like today or?
Yeah, I'll send it today.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. We're not gonna do functions because people are leaving, but I will cover that next week. But yeah. Okay, so there's a question. a question about the stars. So like, what code can we use to combine the two triangles? When you want to combine two triangles, it's a little more complex because it's not just like drawing, right? You have to like physically code it to do it, and that's kind of complex. But what you can do is you can print multiple triangles like on one side, and then you can print like multiple triangles on the other side as well. What I'll do actually is I'll save the question and I'll post a Google Colab of it. So I'll post this Google Colab that I have that I've been showing you guys, and I'll include like a combination of two triangles and what that will look like. But you guys can definitely explore it by yourselves and kind of see how to do that as well, because it just comes, your proficiency with this, it's just how much you practice with it, right? So you can try that as well. But yeah, I'll post the code for that on the Google Colab.
Yeah. Thank you.
Okay, yeah. And finally, we have project ideas. So this is just a quick review. You'll be building your own sustainability application. We went over this last week, but currently you're in the brainstorm phase, right? You'll explore and like finalize what your project idea is, what you want it to be, right? And you will take notes on the project template, brainstorming template, which I posted on the Google Classroom as a part of materials last time. I will share that once again. So yeah, so it's this one right here. It's choosing a problem, right? So when you're looking at different problems, you can just make a copy of this document and fill in this table, right? Of different problems you see, a general description of the problem, if it's feasible to solve with Python, and if you have any ideas for solutions right now, right? That's basically what you're doing with this template. And yeah, just keep tracking ideas and discussing it with your friends as well, because this brainstorming phase is probably one of the most important part of the 3 phases: building, brainstorm, building, and refining, right? So spend time on this and pick a good project that you think you can confidently build and present, right? But yeah, that's it. Does anyone have any questions for project ideas? So questions, nothing. Okay. So then final wrap up, we're almost done here. Basically for loops rely on a number while loops rely on a condition, right? Lists are accessed using specific syntax. So again, if we go back, we have to use the list name, square bracket, and then index, right? That's how we use it. And then functions, and these we'll cover in the next meeting, right? But for now, that's it. And before you guys leave, I will post all these materials and the meeting review and this video recording on Google Classroom. And I will also post an attendance form / feedback form that you guys can fill out to mark your attendance in this session. And yeah, just make sure you fill that out. And this is the homework. It's just understanding Python better, getting more comfortable with the basics, and continuously taking notes on your template and finding more problems and solutions to those in the environment. But yeah, that's it. That's all I have. Thank you. You guys can go watch the World Cup, and all the materials will be posted. Next bootcamp is on July 26th, Sunday. So you guys can leave now. Bye.
Bye.
Thank you. Bye.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye. Okay. Neil, do you have a question? Or the meeting is over? I'm gonna be ending the meeting now.